You are listening to No PC Allowed, aka No Political Correctness Allowed, and I am Mac Iverson. We are embarking upon a new era, an era that is truly of the people. But in order for that era to have any real power, the people, meaning you, must get involved. And I'm not talking in any half-hearted way. If we don't get involved, then this era will end up meaning absolutely nothing and become dust in the wind very, very quickly. But this incredible closing door of opportunity for the empowerment of just average people like you and me has never before happened in human history. Not to the degree that is about to happen. Not even close. So, if this has never happened before, then what's the real solution to our lack of personal power? Is it just Trump and the thousands of compatriots in his charge? Or is much, much more needed than that to effect long-lasting change? This is a tall order. How do we know that Trump and his voters will actually be able to pull this thing off? How do average people actually become empowered? This is the big question that has really plagued Americans since the beginning of our country. Actually, long before that, if you think about it. Historically, disempowerment is not uniquely an American problem, of course. This has plagued all of humanity since the fall of man in the Garden of Eden. Therefore, to view Trump's success as a foregone conclusion is a massive mistake. I do not believe in motivation. I believe in discipline. We can either feel the pain of discipline or feel the pain of disappointment. But to have discipline, you must, oddly enough, have strong motivation. But that motivation is simple and easy. Most of us possess this. It all begins with basic desire. And it pretty much ends there too. We don't need to examine the science of motivation too closely. Everyone wants the good life. After all, consider all the snake oil salesmen in the human potential movement that goes back thousands of years. Many have tried with great success to cash in on the universal desire for the masses to make all their dreams come true, and quickly. The great success of this massive multi-billion-dollar business model that sprang from Dale Carnegie on to Anthony Robbins and now to Mel Robbins, and with many millions of other teachers and gurus trying to make permanent changes for their students stick. Even Joel Osteen, who preaches prosperity consciousness in his church, does this. But also consider how overwhelmingly unsuccessful followers of these teachers have actually been. Success is taught in the Bible, but it must be in line with God's Word. There are more than 10 commandments in the Bible. There are actually hundreds of commandments. If we follow these commandments, which are obviously more than mere suggestions, then our lives would become much easier. That is why God put them there. Also, they were put there to remind us of our personal inadequacies, that no one can live the perfect life. But life becomes much easier when we simply follow these rules that were put there, again, by God to help dedicated Christians navigate through the tempest waves of reality. But with our stubborn, stuck-on-stupid human nature, people seldom want to follow, let alone take the time to actually follow these commandments. Again, a commandment is not a suggestion. Now, according to the Bible, we Christians no longer live under the law. Galatians 2:21 states, "I do not set aside the grace of God, for if righteousness could be gained through the law, Christ died for nothing." But does this mean that behaviorally, living a holy life is not important to God anymore? As the Bible clearly states, certainly not. But we can only live up to a very imperfect human standard. Beyond that, we must become disgusted with our flailing human failings by drawing closer to God, and all that to our great relief. Because now our burdens are upon Him, no longer upon ourselves. Some people say, I'm a Christian, but I'm not conservative. I'm a liberal Christian. Doesn't this negate the entire point of being a Christian, which is to live as a conservative? The Bible states strongly, live conservatively and follow the narrow path that leads to salvation, not the heavily traveled broad or liberal path, which leads to destruction. This all leads us back to the Trump revolution. The voters have spoken, and that voice is loud and clear. We have demanded the following conservative changes. He will close the border. He will begin the largest deportation of illegal aliens in history. He will impose between a 10 and 20% across-the-board tariff on all $3 trillion worth of U.S. goods imports and a 60% tariff on all Chinese goods. all in order to boost the ailing American economy. He will put the skids on what he calls the catastrophic climate change hoax. He will open up oil and natural gas exploration to the fullest. He will enact deep tax cuts, thus cutting the growth of government, thus cutting the inflation rate dramatically, thus greatly fueling economic growth. He will end the Ukraine blood drain. He will gut the corrupt education department, which has overseen the behemoth growth of the largest and most corrupt public unions in human history, which will in turn help cease the unholy and demonic explosion of woke insanity. Trump has called for the deep sixing of the diversity, scam, and extra legal protections for the LGBT WTF crowd. Trump has called for ending diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in government institutions using federal funding as leverage. President Trump promises generally to end the widespread boys and girls sports. He also wants to end the Vice President Brandon's, a.k.a. Biden, regime's policy of extension of Title IX, not civil rights, but snivel rights, protections to confused trans students. And he would ask Congress to require that only two genders can be recognized at birth. As of this recording, Trump's inauguration will be tomorrow, January 20th, 2025. Trump's re-election means absolutely nothing unless we grab the deep state bull by the horns and rustle it down and castrate it. No more can we say, I'm going to leave it to my neighbor or my city councilman or mayor or governor or senator or congressman. Those days of passing the buck are officially long gone. You, dear listener, must be the driving impetus to change America for at least a generation and possibly for the remainder of our time left on this earth. That time is now. If this historic watershed moment doesn't excite you, you might want to check your pulse. We now have less than 2 very short years until the vital midterm elections, and we must retain control of the House and Senate. We must personally take this never-to-again-occur opportunity in human history to the maximum distance and destiny. That momentum needed is like the amount of fuel necessary to lift a massive 747 off the ground for a long flight. And you must personally become a part of that momentum. If we fail with the tremendous gift of a chance of extreme success that God has given us with this shocking MAGA Trump victory, there will be no one left to blame but ourselves. We will officially have run out of excuses. You've been listening to No PC Allowed. I am Mac Iverson. We will meet again next week and every week.